Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leak check these. So, a lot of you out there probably don't have these fittings, but they're a must. You want to do critical diagnosis. They're process tube adapter kits. They have a rubber grommet and two metal sleeves in here. And when you tighten this down, it crimps down and onto the tube, onto the copper tube here. So I'm going to attach this to this tube. And get it good and tight. And then attach it to this tube. So you can see that we're attached to this tube here. We're going to check and make sure that this is not leaking. And we're attached to this tube, and we're going to make sure that this isn't leaking at the bottom. Two new joints that we put in. So I don't have any nitrogen with me, so I'm just going to use pressure here. And I want to turn this gas on. And I always bleed this out. Let in about 75 pounds of pressure. You can see that, about 75 pounds of pressure. It's actually more than that. It's almost 90 pounds of pressure. Turn my valves off. So I know it's not leaking out the valves. I've already made sure all the hoses are tight. And it's about 90 pounds. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and take this over to the bath. And I'm going to dip it in the water bath. As you can see, this is full of water. Okay? I'm going to, just like they do with tires, when they check a tire for a leak, tire store. Put it down in there, and at 100 pounds of pressure, you're going to get bubbles coming out if there's any leaks. So we're going to take this, we're going to put it down into the water. I always like to tap on this so we make sure that you see there's no bubbles coming up. Zero bubbles. So it's not leaking. Okay, we're going to pull that one out. We're going to put this one in. This one's a little more difficult. Usually we've got to pretty much flip this over. I'm going to put this one down. It's a little harder to get in here. I usually have to bend this tube down to do it, so I'm going to do that right now. and bend this tube down so you can get it down into the water. And you can see now it's in the water. No bubbles. And we're at 90 pounds. Okay, lines are hooked up, both of them at 90 pounds, no bubbles. Okay, so that's how you want to test these. That's how I test them. Every single one of these, make sure they're not leaking before they're shipped out. And I know they're not leaking when you receive them. So if you cause them to leak, it's because you got this copper line too hot and you melted that weld right there. If that's the case, it's on you. I put warnings on the box, warnings on the description before you purchase it, and you just have to be careful. If you use paste, heat absorption paste, and put it on this copper tube, you're not going to have the heat get down to this joint. And you don't want to be in this joint too long when you braze it to the heat exchanger. Just heat it up, get it nice and clean with emery cloth. Don't use a wire brush. It leaves spots. Get it nice and clean with emery cloth. Use flux even if you have solder with flux in it. Use flux and then heat it with the proper torch, acetylene. Oxy-acetylene is too hot. You're going to transfer the heat all the way down here, and if you have any problems soldering, brazing this joint, you're going to end up with it too hot down here and it's going to melt that joint. Okay, I can always tell by the color of the tube, the copper tube, if it's been too hot and you've had trouble brazing this joint. Get it good and clean, flux it, and use 15% silver solder, and use the proper torch. Acetylene is the proper torch. It's the right temperature, and if you turn if you're real careful with oxy-acetylene, and you know what you're doing, you can get it to where it doesn't get as hot, but you're going to do it really quickly. If you're still messing with it after about 5 seconds, it should be sealed in 5 seconds with solder. That's how quick it should seal. And if it's not, then you keep messing with it. It's because you don't have a clean joint and it's too hot. And you're incinerating the flux. Okay, so once again, still at 90 pounds. Check their joints here. There's 0 bubbles. Okay, check the other joint real quick again. Okay, see that? Zero bubbles. Okay, so it's not leaking. Okay, so we're all set. Ship this one out. Okay, this is my setup here for making the evaporators. All right.